Hi, my name's Levi Foster. I'm from a small town, Wasilla, Alaska. Um, and I grew up in a Mormon household. So coming out for me was not really a fun or predictable thing to do at 16 years old, but I had to do it. So when I first came out, I thought for sure that I was going to be ostracized from my family, my community. I didn't really have any gay examples in my community that I knew of. I didn't know of anyone that was out. Um, there wasn't really anything in the media at that time that I was exposed to, and at church I was often taught or told things like it's better to be dead than to live a gay life. Like it's a greater sin to be gay than to take your own life. And so I obviously I didn't want to kill myself, but there were a dark train of thought that I think that I was conditioned to, where I thought my natural self was unacceptable to maintain a place in my community. So I had my bags packed when I told my parents, and to my surprise, my dad was really accepting. My mom had a harder time, but my dad was just like, despite what people say at church, like I know you would never choose to be gay. I think you were born this way, and I'm gonna love you no matter what. I think he had exposure to gay people, and so it's something he had thought about before I came out, and I think he knew I was gay before I came out too. But my mom just like it hit her like a rock. Like she just had no. She said she had no idea. She had no exposure to any gay people. It's something that she had only thought of as like this really dark, sinful, sad life. And it wasn't necessarily that I wouldn't be following the teachings of their religion that hurt her the most. What hurt her the most is that she thought for sure that, in 6 years I was going to be dead of AIDS. Because that's just the lie that she was told. And I think that millions of people are told. And she just thought I was going to have this horrible, sad life. She was so depressed and just didn't understand how to raise me anymore that I actually ended up moving away. It was almost a year. So around my 17th year, I moved to Utah, which is kind of a bizarre choice. It's like the epicenter of Mormonism. But I wasn't necessarily, I left the church, but I wasn't necessarily running from Mormonism. I still understood the sort of culture and language of it. And I knew that there would be other gay Mormons in Utah that I could relate to. And I lived with an aunt there and went to school there. And it was more, I think it was an eye opener for me. There was so much good and bad. I felt like in that environment, I saw these people that grew up LDS, grew up Mormon, who had come out and had these really great lives and had moved past the whatever negative thoughts were instilled from their upbringing. And then there were other people that were just dropping like flies. And sorry if I get emotional, just 2 weeks ago, I lost one of my last friends. Who grew up Mormon and took his own life. And he's the same age as me. And I feel like I was so lucky because eventually my mom came around and supported me, and my dad did from day one. And he never had that. And I could give you a dozen names of people that never had that. it's so important that we tell our coming out stories, that we share who we are, because someone came out to my dad once before I did, and that exposure helped him raise his son and helped me be more confident in myself. And when I faced adversity or negative talk of who I was, I had the confidence to stand up for myself and believe that, I'm good and whole. And I had so many friends that didn't have that because of the way they were taught to think about themselves. And, even 10, 15 years after coming out, they still had a hole, something missing. And I think that if LGBTQ people, if we can be brave and tell our stories, we'll reach more people and create more enlightenment so that others don't grow up in the dark. My mom since passed, and before she passed, she wrote me a letter. Excuse me, I'll get myself together. She wrote me a letter that said that she was so grateful to have a gay son to teach her what unconditional love really was. And she loved the activism that I participated in. She loved all the things that she thought negatively of before. She loved my friends. And she was so proud to have a gay son. That transition, I think, is so inspiring and important. Sometimes I think of the way she was raised, and I feel like she was more brave than I was coming out, because telling a whole Mormon community of peers that were raised like her and her age in very conservative and small-minded environments that she's proud of her gay son is a brave thing to do. And it helps them think about, how much do they love their children, and how are they going to raise their children? Is it truly unconditional? And are they willing to open their minds and celebrate who they are, despite what a church taught them? A lesson that I learned in my coming out was one of examples. My father being a fantastic example. My mother learning to be an example. In just really stepping up to the plate and being such an ally. And both of them together inspiring me and helping me to try and be an example. And it's something that I want to continue to do and share with others. We all can do this. We can all be examples in our communities. And I think our presence and being out and sharing who we are will help the generations to come so that less people feel alone and in the dark. So I challenge everyone to be that example, to stand up in their communities. Remember that it's not just for you, it's for everyone else watching.